Okay, so picture this. You're commanding like legions of knights, right? And they're facing off against like hordes of orcs. And the fate of this whole world, this meticulously crafted world, is hanging in the balance.
Yeah,
That's miniature wargaming.
it is.
It is. And that's what we're diving into today, specifically because it seems like you are dipping your toes into this hobby. And you've sent over some really cool stuff, a Wikipedia article on, just what it is, some notes, and you said something about liking medieval fantasy.
Nice.
Yeah. And a calendar invite with a miniature wargaming enthusiast. So we're going to unpack all of this, get you up to speed, and maybe even help you like strategize for that meeting. Sound good?
Let's do it.
But first, what is miniature wargaming, really? It's
Right.
more than just pushing little toy soldiers around a table, right?
Absolutely. It's a captivating blend of history and strategy and creativity, and it's all brought to life with these meticulously painted figures.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine a tabletop, and you've transformed it into a battlefield, complete with rolling hills and dense forests and crumbling ruins.
Right.
And you're not just moving pieces, you're commanding armies.
Yeah.
You're outmaneuvering opponents. You're forging your own narratives with every roll of the dice.
So I noticed in your notes you seem a tad intimidated by the cost of getting started.
Yeah.
I get it. It can be a lot.
Yeah, but we could demystify that a little bit. And the Wikipedia article mentions this diving like headfirst into like a massive game system like Warhammer can be pricey.
Yeah, that's where starting small becomes like your most valuable tactic. There's
Right.
no need to amass a vast collection right away.
In fact, especially with a game system like Warhammer that's got different scales, starting small can help you avoid being overwhelmed by the cost and find what works best for you.
You mentioned Warhammer specifically in your notes, and it seems your interest is piqued by like medieval fantasy? Coincidence? I think not.
Totally.
What's fascinating about Warhammer is that it offers a range of scales, each catering to different preferences and budgets.
Exactly. You've got your epic large-scale battles with the 6mm figures that let you field, tons and tons of pieces without breaking the bank.
Right.
But if you crave details, those larger 28mm figures are really where it's at. You see every scratch on a Space Marine's armor, every gnarled tooth in an orc's grimace.
Wow.
It's really something else.
So you get to choose your scale of immersion. Are you a grand strategist commanding legions?
Yeah.
Or are you a detail-oriented tactician just focused on these individual warriors?
Absolutely.
And speaking of detail, let's talk about Warhammer a bit more. This game system is so cool because it's renowned for its rich lore, its diverse factions, and the endless possibilities for customization. Okay, Warhammer has you hooked, it seems. And you mentioned feeling a bit intimidated, which is totally understandable. This is where understanding the different aspects of getting started can really help.
Absolutely. Think of it like assembling a battle plan, right? You mentioned in your notes that you had past experience with model building.
Right.
That's a fantastic foundation. And while those intricate miniatures might seem daunting to paint, even simple painting techniques can yield impressive results. There are tons of resources online and in your local gaming community to help you master those skills.
Resources like that meeting on your calendar.
Ooh, yes.
We know it's with a miniature wargaming enthusiast, but who knows what they're into.
Hey,
This is where things get interesting.
this is the exciting part.
Yeah.
So what we can do is equip you with some universal conversation starters, points that bridge historical and fantasy wargaming. For instance, Warhammer is known for its strategic depth, the interplay of different unit types, the importance of positioning on the battlefield, and of course that element of chance introduced through dice rolls.
Right. You mentioned you like strategy games, so that might be a great starting point. You could even ask them about how much randomness they prefer in their wargaming experience. Some folks love those unexpected turns of fate, while others prefer a more controlled and predictable approach. It's like that saying, no plan survives contact with the enemy, right? You can strategize all you want, but those dice can introduce some serious chaos into your carefully crafted battle plan.
Exactly. And that's where the real excitement lies. Those unexpected twists of fate. Those moments where you have to think on your feet and adapt your strategy. But let's not forget about the social element, too. Remember how you mentioned wanting to find a new hobby that's more than just, staring at a screen?
Right.
Well, the sense of community in miniature wargaming is a huge part of its appeal.
It's funny you should mention that because I was looking at that meeting invite again, and it struck me. What if this enthusiast is a history buff, not into fantasy at all? We've been laser focused on Warhammer, but The Wikipedia article and your notes mention historical wargaming, too.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
It could be a chance for you to broaden your horizons a little bit.
That's the beauty of this hobby. It caters to such a wide range of interests. The article mentions some really popular historical periods, like the Napoleonic Wars, the American Civil War, even ancient Rome. Imagine recreating the Battle of Alesia with, like, legions of tiny Gauls clashing against Caesar's legions.
Wow, that'd be amazing.
Yeah,
Now, you mentioned line of sight before. Can you give an example of how that plays out in, say, Warhammer?
absolutely. Imagine this. Your orc archers are perched atop a crumbling watchtower, raining arrows down on an approaching enemy. But wait, a unit of sneaky Skaven clan rats has managed to flank your position and take cover behind a ruined wall. Now, because of that wall blocking their line of sight, your orcs can't target them directly. They'll need to
Oh.
reposition or rely on other units to flush those pesky ratmen out.
So you're telling me a pile of rubble can make or break a battle. That's wild. I never would have thought about terrain playing such a crucial role.
Oh, it's huge. It's all about using your surroundings to your advantage, just like a real general would.
I like it.
And speaking of real generals, let's brainstorm some questions you could ask your miniature wargaming enthusiast about their historical interests.
Yeah.
You could casually inquire about, like, their favorite historical period or any specific battles that they find particularly fascinating.
Ooh, that's good. And I could even weave in some of the examples from the Wikipedia article, like, have you ever gamed the Hundred Years' War? I've always been fascinated by the English longbowmen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all about finding that common ground. And you can also ask about the challenges of historical wargaming versus fantasy. For example, historical games often have stricter rules to maintain accuracy, you know.
Right.
While fantasy games allow for more creative freedom.
Right. You could ask, do you find historical games require a different mindset compared to, like, Warhammer, where there's more room for, fantastical elements?
Now you're thinking like a true deep diver. And here's another thought the Wikipedia article touched on, the social aspect. You could always ask about their local gaming scene.
Oh, yeah.
Do they play at home, at a dedicated game store, or even at, like, a club?
That's a great idea. I've always been curious about those dedicated gaming spaces. I bet they have incredible terrain setups.
Oh, I bet. Maybe you'll even get invited to a game night.
That'd be awesome.
Speaking of game night, what are your thoughts on the whole painting aspect? You mentioned liking creative hobbies,
Yeah.
but those Warhammer figures can be pretty intricate.
I'll admit, when I first saw those painted Warhammer figures online, I was blown away. The detail is incredible. I can see how it would be intimidating, though, to try to paint something so small.
What's great is, like, with the financial aspects, you can start small. There are pre-painted miniatures available, or you can begin with a basic set of colors and simple techniques. And the community is incredibly supportive. There are tons of online tutorials and resources to guide you. And there's a real sense of accomplishment that comes with seeing your own painted army take the field.
That's actually really reassuring. It's, like you said earlier, start small, find your footing, and then gradually expand your skills and your collection.
Precisely. It's about enjoying the journey and discovering what aspects of the hobby resonate most with you. But let's circle back to this meeting. We've talked about conversation starters, but I'm curious, what are your initial impressions of this miniature wargaming enthusiast, just based on their calendar invite?
Honestly, the calendar invite itself is so sparse. Like, it just says miniature wargaming enthusiast. It doesn't give us any specifics.
Right.
Part of me wonders if they're being intentionally mysterious,
Uh,
like to gauge how deep Imwe knowledge goes.
It could be a test
Yeah.
of your genuine interest.
Yeah.
But you've already got that covered. This deep dive has
Yeah.
equipped you with a solid understanding of the basics, historical and fantasy, the importance of scale, the community aspect, even down to line of sight and terrain. You've got this.
Okay, that does boost my confidence a bit. But you know what else I found interesting while we were prepping for this deep dive? The Wikipedia article mentioned that miniature wargaming can actually be a gateway to other hobbies,
Oh, yeah,
like historical research or even creative writing.
absolutely.
I never thought about it that way before.
Makes sense, though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're immersing yourself in these really richly detailed worlds, whether they're historical or fictional.
Right.
It's only natural to want to delve deeper, to learn more about the real-life events that inspired a particular battle,
Right.
or to create your own narratives
Yes.
set within those fantastical universes.
It's like each miniature, each painted regiment is a story waiting to be told.
It is.
You could even imagine, like, someone getting so immersed in the historical research for their miniatures that they become amateur historians
All
themselves.
the time.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Or someone might start painting miniatures as a way to relax and unwind, and they discover a hidden talent for art.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
That's amazing. Miniature wargaming can open so many doors. It's a hobby with such surprising depth.
It really is.
And
Yeah,
all these unexpected connections.
totally.
That actually brings up another point I wanted to discuss. We talked about miniature wargaming being this, social hobby, but the Wikipedia article also mentioned the rise of online platforms and, virtual tabletop simulators.
Right.
Does that mean the hobby is changing, becoming more digital?
It's definitely evolving, but not necessarily at the expense of the in-person element.
Okay.
Think of it more like expanding the battlefield.
Okay.
So like virtual tabletop simulators, those can connect players from all corners of the globe, right?
Right.
Allowing them to test their strategies against opponents they might never meet in person.
Yeah. That's so cool.
And honestly, some of those virtual battlefields are so realistic, almost as good as the real thing.
Wow.
Minus the spilled drinks and the late night cleanup.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It makes you wonder, though, will there ever come a time when, those virtual battlefields completely replace the physical ones?
It's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
I doubt it. There's something inherently tactile and satisfying about holding those figures, the ones you painted by hand. Carefully positioning them on the tabletop, rolling real physical dice.
Yeah.
Seeing your opponent's reaction across from you, right there. It's an experience that you just can't replicate in a purely digital environment.
It's like the difference between, reading a book on your tablet versus holding, a physical copy in your hand.
100%.
They both offer the same story, but the
Yeah.
experience is totally different.
Exactly, exactly. And let's not forget the social aspect. Those shared moments of laughter and strategizing and friendly rivalry.
Yes.
That's such an integral part of the miniature wargaming experience.
Totally.
The virtual world enhances, but it doesn't replace those real-world connections.
I think we've given our listener plenty to think about and maybe even a few conversation starters
Oh, yeah?
for their upcoming meeting.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're well equipped to navigate that meeting with confidence and curiosity, whether they encounter a fellow Warhammer enthusiast, a history buff, or someone with completely different interests.
Right.
It's a big world out there. Miniature wargaming, it's huge. This deep dive has been quite a journey. We've unpacked the basics, we explored the hobby's nuances, even touched on its potential to spark, other passions.
It's true.
From choosing your scale of immersion in Warhammer to navigating the world of historical wargaming, we've covered a lot of ground.
We really have.
So to our listener, we say, embrace the challenge, unleash your creativity, and most importantly, have fun. Who knows, you might just discover your next great obsession.